As you know, the Immigration Service is now conducting interviews for employment-based green cards as well. Do you wonder what's happening in those interviews? Watch this video and I'll tell you more. Hello everybody, my name is Jacob Sapochnick and I'm an immigration attorney based in San Diego, California. We focus on employment-based immigration heavily in my law practice. And in this video, I want to explain a little bit what happens at employment-based green card interviews. Now, a mandatory requirements for all 485 adjustment interviews. So as you know, in the past, only family-based, marriage-based, and any other adjustments based on family required an interview where the officer would meet the family petitioners and the beneficiaries at the immigration office to question the relationship, the family connection, and many things like that. But in the past year or so, the USCIS is now requiring interviews for 485 adjustment of status applications following employment-based petitions. So for example, if you have an employer that filed for you an I-140 based on EB2 employment-based sponsorship, when the 485 gets adjudicated, they're now going to call you for an interview to verify certain things. If you file a green card based on a national interest waiver and your 485 adjustment of status is getting adjudicated, you will be called for an interview by the USCIS service to question you about the case. So what actually happens in those interviews? I've attended quite a few of those interviews since they started, and we've seen a pattern by the U.S. immigration officer depending on the kind of petition. So for example, if we are looking at an employment-based petition based on EB2, so you have an employer that filed a PERM labor certification for you, and then based on that PERM, they filed an I-140 immigrant petition. That I-140 petition has been approved, and you're now at final stages of the 485. You call for an interview. At that interview, they're going to be checking several things. First of all, they're going to be looking at the job description. Are you still doing exactly what you were supposed to be doing under the original I-140? Or has there been a significant change in employment? It is really important to prepare for those interviews in that way. So if you're now switching an employer, or if you're working for a different company than the one that sponsored you, you really have to prepare documents to show that you are in the same or similar position, and if not, explain why. So these are some of the things that I've seen that they've been checking. They've also been looking at some of the tax returns. So if you are supposed to be working for a company, but then you started a business on the side, maybe an Amazon business or something else, and you have a Schedule C, it is really important to look at your tax returns before you go to the interview, because any risk of unauthorized employment while you are working for your employer, while you're going through that green card process, can result in a denial. For example, we had a case where somebody filed a green card as an engineer, and they're working for a large software company, and so at the time of the interview, the officer wanted to look at the tax returns of our client. And this particular client, unknown to me, also was an investor in a restaurant. He was actually an active investor in a restaurant, and that was reflected on his tax return. As a result, the officer was concerned that this particular applicant was engaged in unlawful employment while going through the green card process. And so that resulted in a very substantial request for evidence, and we had to show that he wasn't really working in this company, he was just a silent investor, and eventually we were able to save the case. But those are some of the things they're looking for. Another example of a national interest waiver case where somebody filed for a green card on their own, and the Immigration Service wanted to know whether that person actually did what they promised to do during the national interest waiver application. Are they in fact working on the business? Are they doing what they do? Are they furthering the benefit of their application as they promised on the original I-140? So those are some of the things we've seen happen. They're looking for unlawful employment, they're looking for unauthorized employment, they're looking for any fraud that happened during the original I-140. And so it's really important to prepare correctly for this interview, understand what was the original case that you've done, maybe it's been several years since you filed, and really be prepared for this interview. Do not take them lightly, because they are there to look for anything that can jeopardize your case and result in a denial. So really important to plan correctly for those interviews. But all in all, those interviews resulted in employment cases taking much longer, because now everybody is required to attend an interview. So be patient and wait for your turn. And again, make sure that you really prepare for this interview, because you have an I-140 that's been approved, everything is good, and you don't want to fail at the last step. If you found this video helpful, make sure that you leave me a comment and subscribe to our channel and want to do more of these videos, and make sure you share it with somebody that needs it right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on our next video.